Let us chant Namo Tassa before the start of the session. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. We are continuing from the analysis of purification today. Can you all see the screen? Yes, right? Okay. Purification of virtue. Sila Vishuddhi. Purification of virtue consists of 4 kinds of purified virtue, namely, virtue regarding restraint according to the Patimokha, virtue regarding restraint of the sense faculties, virtue consisting in purity of livelihood, and virtue connected with the use of the requisites. The Pali would be the first, Patimokha Samvara Sila, the second, Indriya Samvara Sila, the third, Ajiva Parashuddhi Sila, not Avijja Parashuddhi, Ajiva Parashuddhi Sila, and Pacha Sannisita Sila. Right? This is called the Chatu Parashuddhi Sila of the Sila Vishuddhi. These 4 kinds of purified virtue are explained with reference to the life of a bhikkhu, a Buddhist monk. Virtue regarding restraint according to the Patimokha. The Patimokha is the code of fundamental disciplinary rules binding upon a Buddhist monk. This code consists of 227 rules of varying degrees of gravity. Perfect adherence to the rules laid down in the Patimokha is called virtue regarding restraint according to the Patimokha. Virtue regarding restraint of the sense faculties means the exercise of mindfulness in one's encounter with sense objects, not allowing the mind to come under the sway of attraction towards pleasant objects and repulsion towards unpleasant objects, The third, virtue consisting in purity of livelihood, deals with the manner in which a bhikkhu acquires the necessities of life. He should not he should not acquire his requisites in a manner unbecoming of a monk who is dedicated to purity and honesty. Is this explained? No. So, virtue connected with the use of the requisites means that the bhikkhu should use the 4 requisites, robes, alms, food, lodging, and medicines, after reflecting upon their purpose of use. All right. So when the Patimokha Samvara Sila, Indriya Samvara Sila, Ajiva Parashuddhi Sila, and the Pacha Sannisita Sila, when these types of sealers, or when a person has a foundation cultivated through the adherence to these sealers or this type of morality, what happens is this morality forms the foundation for samadhi. right? This morality forms the foundation for samadhi. Even when it comes to, let us say, the Panchasila, if one is to protect the Panchasila and is absolutely confident, mage atin me Panchasila kadla naha, or after I have determined not to break it, I have not broken it. Samadhi can be aroused by the sense of confidence that one has upon one's sila, right? Upon one's sila. The mind, even if now one might imagine, how does that happen? Is that silanusati? Yes, that can be silanusati. And we also know that silanusati, does it have or does it not have a jhana? Remember, it does not have a jhana, right? However, silanusati, because of silanusati, what happens? Because of silanusati, or the meditation, or the reflection of one's sila, the mind comes to suppress and have power over the hindrances, the suppression of hindrances. With the suppression of the hindrances, the clarity arises in the mind. When clarity arises in the mind, whatever object that the mind takes as a meditation object with the wholesome trihetuka kusala, the mind can go into samadhi very easily. Very easily. So the first is the Patimokka Samvara Sila. The second deals with Indriya Samvara, which draws parallels with Indriya Bhavana. Right? You achieve this through, of course, Sila, Samadhi as well. Samadhi, the second, is through the Samatha practice, right? There, the Indriya Samvara can come in. The Vidarshana practice also has Indriya Samvara in it, right? Indriya Bhavana in it. So this can be achieved through restraint, through Sila, and also Bhavana. And also Bhavana. Virtue consisting in the purity of livelihood. So, for us bhikkhus, for monks, specifically, it is quite clear. Whatever which is offered towards the monks, as now here the requisites that are obtained, you know, not much, isn't it? It's the robes, the shelter, the kutis, the aranyas, all of that, the food and the medicines. These things have to be obtained in a pure manner, right? If, for example, let us say we have a lot of robes with us. We hide the robes in order to receive more robes, right? That would count as impure. That would count as impure. Let us say the requisites or whatever means of livelihood that the monks have been obtained impurely. How? By displaying qualities that the monks do not have. By lies, by buttering up the devotees, by all of these things, all of that becomes impure. What? Now let us say a monk lives in such a manner for a bit of time, right? And then comes to realize the means or, the gravity of the actions and the fact that these requisites have not been obtained by pure means. What do we see happening? And we see this happening. We have seen it happening where monks, they live in a certain atmosphere where these things are done, and then they come into a monastic atmosphere and they realize, oh, what have I been doing all these years, right? And what we practically see happening is the monks abandon everything that they obtained impurely, right, with wrong intent, and then they start over. So how do they abandon? They will give it to someone else or whatever it is. And we've seen this happening so many times as well. It does happen even today, it does happen. Virtue connected with the use of requisites. This is quite clear. Niman dakinna tamai me sivpasa minusu puja karanne. Niman ara වෙන දෙයකට මේ සිව්පස පාවිච්චි කරන්න බෑ. You cannot use any of these things for the purpose other than the practice leading towards nirvana. So politics, social service, politics, social service, what else? Popularity, gaining popularity. I mean, everything, all of that would be covered. Anything beyond the scope of nirvana would fall into this category, thus making it impure. That is why if a monk is to use the 4 requisites without pacchavekkana, he entails an offense of wrongdoing. ඒ කියන්නේ ප්‍රතිවේක්ෂා කරන්න නැතුව මේව පාවිච්චි කරන්නත් බෑ. So at least once a day. The Buddha says it's best if one would be able to do it every time he is to put on the robe. So if you put on the robe 10 times, you do it 10 times. Or once a day in the morning or in the evening before going to sleep. At least once a day, the Pacchavekkana has to happen. Right? Or there is an entailing of a dukkhata offense, a wrongdoing. Right? That would then affect the monk's ability to achieve samadhi, because a lot of doubt can come, restlessness can arise. Especially when you go into meditation, the inner voice starts questioning everything. When there are things to question, then the samadhi does not arise. That is how sila or paridiveccha sila, how it comes to sila which is not pure, which comes to now bite you in the back. Right? Is that clear, everyone? Right? So as we are in this case talking about the monks, this applies to the lay people as well, in whatever it is that your sila might be. Okay? Lovely. Any questions? No questions. Okay.
Can a priest give whatever they get for charity?
Depends on what the charity is. Now, let us say the food that is offered, usually in a traditional sense, not a traditional sense, but if there are more than 4 monks or Sangika Dana is taking place, the lay devotees would usually Sangika Karana Krutya Karane. Imang Bhikkhu Bhikkhu Sanghasa Deva Kira, Sangi Kirime. But the thing is, when it comes to food has to be consumed before midday. Right? Yeah. So when Sangika Bhavya, the food being Sangika, lapses after midday.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Right? So the lay people can consume. So at the time, Sangika Karata Passe Gihi Minusun take a Kanna Baha.
Right.
Sangika Karala midday Pauna Passe Apo Gihi Santaka Venama.
Right.
Take a right? However, this is not the way for everything. Yeah. There is Garubanda. Garubanda, there are perishable goods such as food and goods which are not perishable, like shelter, right? Shelter, robes. Now, shelter and robes, Sangye Karata Passe Mudar Dhamma Vage Thama. You can't get it back again. Right? You can't get it back again. You can't get it back again. Yes, you can't get it back again. Sangye karo, sangye kara. Right? So all of those properties all around the Maligawa, including Punchi Matara Batkade, including the mosque, including the Hindu Kovil, all of those things are Sangika. I think up to 3 miles, all of those properties belong to the Dalada Maligawa. Right? All those properties belong to the Dalada Maligawa that has been offered during the king's time, during the time of the king. So those things, according to Sangha law, Buddha law, those things will always belong to the Sangha. That is why the Swajin Nikaya and the Manvata Nikaya, they have this habit of not Deuravarna to a පාරයන්නේ ලංකාවේ. මොකද ලංකාව රජුරෝ 7 සැරයක් සංඝයාට පූජා කරානේ. So they walk around. So in actuality, if you would take that, You don't really have to wear the, Deura, because the whole of Sri Lanka, according to Sangha law, is the bhikkhus, because it has been offered as a Buddha Desa by the king, right? But however, now I think from the monk of the Swayam Nikaya who passed away, who started the small Buddha Rakita Swamin Wahanse, who passed away, he brought the thing back where he wore the sort of the covering of both shoulders, right? But yes, so there are, shelter, medicines, depending on the medicine, is 7 days. Sugar, 7 days. Tea, 7 days. So after 7 days, it lapses, right? After 7 days, it lapses. So in the monastery, what they do is every morning, they have it in crates. So the samaneras or the gihi, abhityas would come and offer it to the bhikkhus every morning, and then they would have their breakfast and all of that. It's quite a beautiful practice, actually. I mean, in the morning you had to go and touch everything and make sure that it's the bhikkhus, and then we put a little little banner that it's been offered. And yeah, so yeah, any other questions, anyone?
Yeah, in our village temple, we were not allowed to even touch a mango in the mango tree, because it's permanently considered as a Sangika.
Sangika,
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah.
And
So,
yes, please go on.
and then it was a very sort of a, and we were not allowed to eat anything in the temple, even after Dani. And it was a quite sort of different feeling when we come to Europe, and everywhere when you go to the temple after Dani, we all had our share.
Yes.
So it's quite sort of difficult to understand initially when we came here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Damsari, the rule of not giving, even I remember when I was in the Aran and I was walking down from top of the mountain to the Dhanashala, and there were some lay people, and they were like, Swamin Wahanse, me dara tikak ape aragya, it was some wood that has some branches that have fallen. They were
Firewood.
firewood that firewood that had fallen, and they wanted to just collect it and take it to their homes, poor homes. I mean, they are not going to use that firewood, right? It's just literally branches on the forest bed.
Yeah.
Now, I didn't know what to say because I can't tell them to take it, right? So I turned around, pretended I didn't see them, and I just walked. I walked as fast as I possibly could to get away from them, right? Because in the Vinaya, it actually says the same thing. The same thing happens where people come into the monastery, they collect firewood, right? And before the rule was promulgated, the bhikkhus say, kamanna me api pachakanne na apita ona thanak thiyena aran yanna kiyala. Right? We have enough, please take it away. And the people take it away, and the other people from the Gama gets to know that there is enough firewood in the Aranya. So now people come into the Aranya to collect firewood. Right? Now this becomes an issue. Right? And then when the monks go to the Buddha, the monks ask, who told them to take firewood? Right? And they point to the monk who first told. Then the rule was promulgated. Why? That is because the Buddha wanted the association between the laity and the Sangha to be only the benefit the laity is supposed to get from associating the Sangha is only supposed to be one, and one only. What is that? Dharma. Dharma, anything other than the Dhamma, monks are not supposed to dispense. That is to protect the purity of the relationship between the laity, whoever the laity might be, and the bhikkhus. Right? So that is why Dhamsiri, in olden day temples, not even the food they would take. And also I've not seen this happening. No, I've not seen it happening. Me gatetu gava me පාංකඩයක් හයි කරලා තියෙනවා, a cloth, and people are supposed to wipe their feet before leaving the temple so that they don't take the grains of sand out of the temple, right? Grains of sand out of the temple. I haven't seen it happening, but I've heard from monks that it was a thing at the time when they were younger. Yeah. So this is because of that. You're not supposed to take fruit or anything, nothing belonging to the Sangha. Yeah. Yeah. So, any questions, anyone? Right. Purification of mind. Purification of mind. Upachara samadhi. Appana samadhi. Purification of mind consists of two kinds of concentration, upachara, appana. Access concentration, upachara samadhi, absorption concentration, appana samadhi. The Pali Buddhist tradition recognizes two different approaches to the development of insight. One approach, called the vehicle of calm, samatha jnana, involves the prior development of calm meditation to the level of access concentration or absorption concentration as a basis for developing insight, One who adopts this approach, the samatha-jnanika meditator, first attains access concentration or one of the fine material or immaterial sphere jhanas. Then he turns the development of insight by defining the mental and physical phenomena occurring in the jhana as mentality and materiality, and seeking their conditions, after which he contemplates these factors in terms of the three characteristics, anicca, dukkha, anattama. For this meditator, his prior attainment of access and absorption concentration is reckoned as his purification of mind. The other approach, called the vehicle of pure insight, Shuddha Vipassana Jnana, does not employ the development of calm as a foundation for developing insight. Instead, the meditator, after purifying his morality, enters directly into the mindful contemplation of changing mental and material processes in his own experience. As this contemplation gains in strength and precision, the mind becomes naturally concentrated upon the ever-changing stream of experience with a degree of concentration equal to that of access concentration. Am I reading too fast, everyone? Is it fine? Gita, yes, no, a little bit. Huh? Yes, I thought as much. Okay, right. The other approach, called the vehicle of pure insight, Shuddha Vipassana Jnana, does not employ the development of calm as a foundation for developing insight. It does not use samatha. Instead, the meditator, after purifying his morality, enters directly into the mindful contemplation. Now, this is important here. After purifying his morality. Now, this insinuates, I mean, if we are to read it after purifying his morality, one might understand it as reaching a state of perfection or reaching a state of peak where one could recognize as pure morality. Oh, now I have pure morality. How could we, or what do you think would count as pure morality here? The grounds for pure morality. What do you think? Any ideas?
Bhante, there's a meditation subject called Silanusmrti.
Silanusati, yes.
Silanusati. Now, if Silanusati, you're contemplating on your achievements in Sila Visuddhi, purification of virtues. Is it?
Yes.
Okay.
But
according,
if we are to reword that, the quality of we reflect upon the quality of the sila.
Quality of the seal. All right. Okay.
Quality of the sila.
Yeah. But according to the table given in the book, it will not reach absorption level. It will reach only up to the absorption, upachara access.
Yeah.
Okay, so that means it's not jhana level.
No jhana.
No
Too
jhana.
ambiguous. Too ambiguous.
Yeah.
No jhana.
Okay. No jhana. Okay.
No jhana. Too ambiguous.
Yeah.
It is quite much like Buddhanusati.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Right? However, it has an effect that it has, and that effect is calming, soothing, suppresses the hindrances, and also energizes the being to not commit wrong that could bring up the hindrances. So it has special effects there, right?
Yeah.
Silanusati can be linked with metta in a very powerful sense, very, very powerful, right? Buddhanusati can be linked with metta as well. Chaganusati can be linked with metta. All of those anusati can be linked with metta as well, and the metta becomes very powerful there, right? I would say out of the two, Silanusati and Buddhanusati become the most powerful in that sense, especially in these times. Here, however, coming back to this, instead the meditator, after purifying his morality, when do we purify our morality to a state where now we can comfortably start vidarshana? What do you think? Any idea? Anoma? Any ideas, Anoma? Lucky?
I was thinking of the precepts, isn't it? I mean, if it's a layman, 5 precepts, and then if it's a priest, then 10 precepts. I was thinking like that. I don't know if that's right or not.
Okay, but let's go deeper there, as we'll look at it as in our own lives, Lucky, and then think at what point is coming to which point would allow me to now pursue vidarshana without any restlessness occurring because of my sila.
Is it Yoniso Mansikara?
It is a sense and type of Yoniso Mansikara for sure, yes. However, what is it is my question. Because if we are to dig in, if we are to dig in, right, we might in the past or, all of that, we might find something that sort of haunts us in a certain way. But how do we stop that and bring ourselves into a position where it doesn't hinder us?
Suppression of Bhante is a certain amount of suppression of hindrances. And
Sheila? Sorry.
Sila is suppression. You can actually suppress
Yeah.
hindrances when you reach the access or the upachar samadhi. So if you reach, if you achieve through sila, upachar samadhi, so you have actually suppress
So here,
hindrances.
Damsane,
Yeah.
here, Shuddha, we are talking about Shuddha Vipassana Jnana.
Yeah.
No Upachara, no Arpana.
Okay.
සමතය නැතුව දැන් අපි මේ විදර්ශනාවට බහින්නයි හදන්නේ.
Yeah.
So I'm asking now, without the samatha, we want to start vidarshana. But it says after purifying his morality.
Bhante is through dana and sila, because that's really important, isn't it?
Dana sila, not exactly. I mean, dana sila, sila
and
it may sila. Now, for example, if we think about it like this, now we have to come into a position where I am 100% committed to the practice. ඒ අවස්ථාවේ මම අදිෂ්ඨානයක් කරනවා මම පංචශීලය හෝ ආජීව අෂ්ටමක සීලය අකුරටම මම දැන් මේක රකින්නවාමයි කියන අදිෂ්ඨානයක් කරනවා එක් හිතකින්. You don't have any intention. Now sometimes let us say සිල් දවස්වල හරි මම දැන් මේ සිල් ගන්නවා ඒත් මං රැට ගිහලා කනවා. Right? Not that type. Right? Not that type. Now, why I took that example is because now when you're taking the sila, you have some sort of hari mata make a raven madai kila, then not that type. Without any sort of second thought to it, I am going to protect this. Mam make a karanwa mai.
Adhisthana, isn't it?
Adhisthana Shakti. ඒ සීලයත් එක්ක එන ඒ අදිෂ්ඨානය ඒ සීලයේ කෙරෙහි තියෙන අදිෂ්ඨාන ශක්තියෙන් අපි සීලය පිරිසුදු වෙනවා. Right? But there is a but. There are things that just because you make a adhisthana පිරිසුදු වෙන්නේ නැහැ. Right? Now, for example, a bhikkhu has amassed a wealth of requisites impurely. At what point does the bhikkhu truly now regain his purity of sila? At the giving up of all amassed impurely. Do you understand? Is that clear? Right? Now, an example for the lay people is the butcher. At the time of the Buddha, and the Buddha commended his efforts. Ragidra avilla sil rakina. The Buddha commended his efforts. For that time period, up until I have to go to work, for this time period, I will protect the sila. That adhisthana. That is what then ඒකට විදර්ශනා වැඩෙනවා. Because you're genuine in your intention. It has to be a genuine determination connected with sila. Then that determination will go on to the vidarshana.
Bhante,
yes.
Now there's a butcher, that example. So the next morning he's doing the same thing, no, Bhante?
Absolutely.
Then what happens? Controversy.
ඔතකොට
එතකොට අදිෂ්ඨාන හිට මම මේ ජොබ් එක කරනවා. Is that what? Are we here to survive also?
So he went back and he did whatever it is. Now his intention was not vidarshana. Vidarshana වැඩිම නෙමෙයි. The Buddha Chetana was not cultivating vipassana. His chetana was, I want to protect sil me podi velawakata hari mam sil rakinna ona. Kina Chetanavai, the butcher had. However, if the butcher wanted to protect Vidarshana and Vidarshana Bhavana Padanana, the story would have had to be a bit more different.
Yeah. He had to give up the job also. That what
Would
he's
have
doing.
to,
Yeah.
would have to give up the
Yeah.
job.
Yeah.
Would have to give up the
Okay.
job. Would have to give up the job for the cultivation of Vipassana. However, now let us say within that Mokakhari Pinak Tibila, before the wake of the morning, the butcher's Vidarshana improved. That possibility is also there if he has the Karma Shakti to support his practice. Now, for example, Anuma, let's put aside the butcher, Patachara, right? And the many other ladies of the night who were at the time of the Buddha, right? Some of them were strong Vipassana practices, but still continuing with their occupation. Have you heard of that? Right? They were continuing.
No, Bhante, there's a true story in Sri Lanka what happened. A lady, she used to go to Maligaon. She's from Kandy. Every evening, every morning she goes and, she, not that she's observing still, but she'll be there till about 3:34 and come back. I have heard this story and there is a book on that also.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And at the time of the Buddha, actually the Buddha goes on to preach how to engage in such a career with virtue.
But Bhante, the livelihood is not right, isn't it? I mean, in the Dhamma, it says you must have the right livelihood, the Eightfold Path, Noble Eightfold Path, and these butcher and these women going about, their livelihood is not right then.
The butcher killing is definitely not right, right? Because he earns a living through killing. I am not so sure about the prostitution actually. As I remember, if I remember correctly, the trading of humans, so slavery is against right livelihood. The killing for that is wrong. The trading of weapons, there are actually 6 or 7, isn't it? Here in the career of being a lady of the night, it doesn't fall under wrong livelihood.
Oh, I see.
It does not
fall
under wrong livelihood according to the Dhamma, right? It doesn't fall under wrong livelihood because it respects the individuality and also the ownership of the body and the right of decision with regards to the body. Where the Buddha has said that this is not right with regards to one's own body is when it comes to suicide. On a spiritual sense, the Buddha has said, as long as it does not bring you harm and bring another person harm, that measure is given. Bring you harm or bring you and another person harm, or doesn't bring you harm but brings another person harm. These things are classified as wrong, right? The butcher, in the process of butchering the other sattva, the animal who's being butchered, or even as a who kills for the government, who gives the death sentence, the executioner. Yes, the executioner. Yes, thank you. The executioner, in that sense also, it is similar as the butcher, right? Make a karmanukulava, the commentary says, through certain karmas, you fall into these sorts of cycles where you accumulate even more karmas through this, right? Even more karmas through this. Now, prostitution, however, does not fall under that. Right? Prostitution does not fall under that. Now, Yes, prostitution does not fall under that because the right of the body comes to the person who owns the body. So then that is where the Buddha goes and says, the Buddha says how to do it properly, which is if you are to take money from a client, make sure for a certain allocated time, let us say 7 to 8, then if you are to bed another client during that time, then you are entailing an offense towards your morality, right? This is the orange part, you see, you know, how the Dhamma goes into, I mean, wow. Right?
Bhante, yeah.
වචනේ දුන්න නම් වචනේ දීලා සල්ලි ගත්තා නම් වචනේට ඉටු කරන්න ඕන. ඒ වචනේ කැඩුවොත් your series පරිදු වෙලා. Right? So in that sense, the Buddha actually tells how this person, the lady of the night, is able to now cultivate Silanusati based on her commitment towards her livelihood. Just wow.
Bhante, can I ask, what does this apply to soldiers too? Because I've always wondered about soldiers.
Yeah. Now, I think soldiers, and having worked with a lot of soldiers in Sri Lanka and also in the UK, we cannot measure soldiers with one standard, because you have the basic soldiers, right, who are trained and then pushed into war or whatever, and then you have the special soldiers, right, who are trained to kill, who are trained with usage of different psychological tricks, right, to make them so devoted to being a soldier for the country, right? Now, when the normal soldiers, or I'm just using that word to differentiate between the two levels of training, whilst they can be easily rehabilitated, right? The other most senior soldiers, rehabilitation is a very difficult task. Why? Because of their training, right? So whilst the normal soldiers, now here, even in the soldiering and being a fighter for the country, if you're doing it wholly for the purpose of the country, then the karma is less, Padma.
Okay, thank you. Yeah.
Right? However, that is not the way war works. Right? Now, if you are using, we know the words, for example, in our country, if they're, having this personal, you see, there is something personal, right? Those words that are used to reflect who they are fighting with, all of these things, that increases, that becomes personal. Usually now, dosa chitta, if you are to kill or to inflict harm, it will always be the dosa chitta. Right? That is where the complication arises. Right? Because when you're in a war zone and when you're shooting, or when you're in the midst of war, you're in a position of life and death. You're fighting to protect your life.
Okay, yeah.
Right? The more senior soldiers who have been trained with so much of training being put into them, right? They are in more control, I would say, in comparison to the others. Their hatred, their control, or their speciality comes through this training that they've received to execute the enemy. That is where it becomes far more rough and complicated. Yeah, so we have to take it on a case-by-case basis.
Okay, thank you. Yeah.
Case-by-case basis. Okay, Nalini, this is asking, isn't prostitution breaking third of the 5 precepts? No, is it? No, it isn't. It isn't breaking the third. Kamesumechachara. Oh my gosh, I feel like we've opened a can of worms. Now, It is,
Bhante, there's addition actually.
yeah.
If that prostitute is a married person, then yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Because
Um,
she's breaking the third the rule.
this is where it becomes a little bit complicated,
Yeah.
right? If it is a male prostitute, no. If it is a female prostitute, yes.
Oh dear. Sajini.
Bhante, why is preference given to the male?
Very unfair, Bhante.
It's misleading. It's misleading. Yeah, very unfair.
මගේ බඩ පොඩ්ඩක් දෙනවා අද අපි දැනට පන්තිය නවත්තමු please. So
Bhante,
so I will do a talk about this sometime because it has a lot of detail. It has a lot of detail, all the details of a lot of detail, a whole lot of detail. The third precept has a whole lot of detail, which I cannot remember. However, why is the male given that sense of liberty? Damsri is using the word freedom. Right. We can't see Mala's face today, but now actually we can't really say of the time because we can see it in today's society as well. However, this is a whole big detail. Karmically, the man and the woman are different, and the role that we play in a family is also different, right? Now, today you might say, yes, we can do. Feminists might say, yeah, we can do just as much as the men could. But, however, we might try to sort of, bring, I won't use the word equal because it's not about being equal. It's about, for example, as a Buddhist monk, I can't do the things that you are doing. You cannot do the things that I am doing, right? Here, the man here is seen as the breadwinner, and as the breadwinner, there are the phases of what a man can do is seen or shown differently to what a woman can do according to the text. However, in today's society, there are women who are breadwinners and not the men as well, right? So that is then something to discuss, which we will on a different day once I have reviewed all the details. But coming back to Nalini's initial question, is why isn't prostitution breaking of the third precept? So prostitution is as long as a woman is not protected or within a protected class. And usually a woman, according to what we see in the books, is always within a protected class, right? Protected class. And as long as the woman is within the protected class and the client comes to the woman doesn't entail the offense of wrongdoing. The client coming to a woman. However, let us say the woman goes to a person, prostitute goes to a person who is married, right, and seduces for the business. If I remember correctly, which I will clarify when I actually do it, not in the sense that teaching, the teaching. If I remember correctly, the prostitute would then entail an offense of wrongdoing, right? Usually the setup at the time was where the client would come to the person, not the person going to the client, right? In that And that plays a big part in who entails wrong or whether it's right or wrong, right? But this is a whole discussion, everyone. This is a whole discussion, but in essence, it does not break the third precept. The third precept is broken where a person who is or who belongs through marriage to someone goes to another, right? Which is again a whole discussion because the set of rules are a bit different between man and woman, right? Which is a bit different. However, I think it's interesting. It's interesting to see that outlook, right? And I remember studying this under the teacher. There were so many questions. There were so many questions. I remember with the monks studying this, we were like, especially me, actually, I was like, wait, this cannot be right. Right. So yeah, we'll do it sometime. We'll do a Deshana or a Sutra talk or something on it, just to explore what it says. It has a great lot of detail, right? So for now, let's get back to the Abhidhamma, if you don't mind. Right. After purifying his morality, so this comes down to the determination, right? If that determination is pure and authentic, genuine, then the vipassana can then onwards grow, right? Can then onwards grow. Where there is a but is, now let us say you are in debt. The debt is not paid. And because the debt is not paid, you are constantly in worry, right? This is another discussion. Because debt is necessarily not a bad thing, right? Debt is not necessarily a bad thing. And in today's financial world, debt is actually an asset, right? Debt is actually an asset. So the problem then arises when you are unable to fulfill the debt. That is where the problem occurs. When you are unable to fulfill the debt. When you are unable to fulfill the debt, worry happens, worry occurs. That worry disrupts the mind, creates instability, restlessness. Is that understood, everyone? Right? So we must understand that way, because if we are to tell people, especially our kids, if that debt is a bad thing, actually debt is not a bad thing. And debt is something that we must have in today's world. However, being unable to pay the debt is where the problem occurs, right? The inability to pay the debt is where the problem occurs. Any questions on that?
Good example is Sri Lanka.
Well, good that it...
Yeah, because we have only 18% of the GDP, as we are not exceeding that, but we were unpopular and we lost the trustworthiness because we couldn't pay the outstanding debts.
Yeah.
So this is a classical example. So it was not it's a huge amount, but we just couldn't pay it back.
We couldn't pay back.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, installments, I mean. Pay back the installments, yeah.
Yeah. So the issue comes at not being able to pay it back.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yes. All right. Instead, the meditator, after purifying his morality, enters directly into the mindful contemplation of the changing mental and material processes. Enters directly into the mindful contemplation of the changing mental and material processes. Satipatthana Takadannon. In his own experience, as his contemplation gains in strength and precision, the mind becomes naturally concentrated upon the ever-changing stream of experience with a degree of concentration equal to that of access concentration. So although we have not cultivated samatha, through the vidarshana bhavana, the mind enters a stream of concentration, a degree of concentration similar to that of access concentration. Similar to that of access concentration, right? Vidarshana samadhi. This moment by moment fixing of the mind on the material mental processes in their present immediacy is known as momentary concentration, khanika samadhi. Because it involves a degree of mental stabilization equal to that of access concentration, this momentary concentration is reckoned as purification of mind. For the Vipassana Jnanika meditator, the meditator who adopts the vehicle of pure insight, such a meditator is also called a dry insight worker, Sukha Vipassaka, because he develops insight without the moisture of the jhanas, because he develops insight without the moisture of the jhanas. Yes, Dhamma.
Bhante, I couldn't understand now what's the basis for your access concentration in this particular case?
The basis for the access concentration is a repetitive contemplation of the object as anicca dukkha anatma.
Okay.
Yeah. So as a repetitive contemplation of anicca dukkha anatma within an object, the hindrances suppress, clarity arises, the mind focuses, goes deeper into the object to focus on the fine aspects of that object, samadhi arises.
Then what's the relationship with your determination in the Sila Visuddhi?
What do you mean?
Now, what sort of effects you or support you get from the Sila Visuddhi?
Yeah. The Sila Vishuddhi clarity and Chitta Vishuddhi clarity is very different from one another.
Okay.
Chitta Vishuddhi clarity, because Dhammasri, as we know in our own practice,
yeah,
the subtlety of mind, there can be clarity, but without subtlety and sensitivity of mind, we are unable to go deeper. That is cultivated through that Vipassana Samadhi.
Okay.
Right? That Vipassana Samadhi. Is that clear?
Yeah, okay. So that means
it becomes, to a certain point, Sila Vishuddhi offers clarity. The Vipassana takes it forward.
Okay. Got it, yeah.
Any other questions?
Bhante, can you please explain Khanika Samadhi a bit?
Yeah. So Khanika Samadhi, this moment by moment fixing of mind on the material and mental processes in their present immediacy is known as momentary concentration. When we meditate, do we not experience a sense of one-pointedness towards the object, being with the object in a very peaceful state with the object for just a moment?
Yeah.
And then we come out of it, almost as if we awaken from something and we go back into it.
Yeah.
That is Khanika Samadhi.
Okay, Bhante. No, thank you, Bhante.
Samadhi is podi muhurtakatai.
It comes and goes off, yeah?
Comes and goes because the mind is unable to balance it. Right? There is a being There is a being with the object, and then the mind becomes aware that we are being with the object. That piece is rather unusual, so we kind of arise from it. The Kanika Samadhi, avilla, we experience Kanika Samadhi again, where then we come into a state of balance. Now the Samadhi prolongs. Okay?
Yes, Bhante. Thank you, Bhante. It's clear.
Okay. Now, any other questions? Okay. Now, when it comes to Sukha Vipassaka, remember, in usual senses, Sukha Vipassaka also might practice Anapanasati to arouse a sense of Samadhi before Manasa ektan karaganna. Yeah. So there is a bit of preparation that goes into the Vipassana practice. Although it is not jhana practice, we might practice Anapanasati for a bit before going into the Vipassana. Anicca dukkha anatta. That is most important. Because we must start somewhere, right? Yeah.
But
Yes.
Anapanasati, we start in the first phase. We start with samatha, which is the contemplation of your exhale and inhale, the flow of air. So the object is flow of air, right? So it's some sort of a samatha. But once you establish that one, we gradually move into vidarshana, right? Purely on the basis of feeling and chittanupassana and vedananupassana.
Yeah. In the beginning, now let us say, let me take a practical example. If you're at Park,
yeah,
right? Park technique is Samatha Vipassana. In the Park technique, they go through the 40 Samatha objects and then start on Vipassana, right? So Park technique would initially start with Anapanasati, and you develop the Anapanasati a bit, and then go into another Samathas and develop the Nimittas, right? If you go to the Mahasi technique, sorry, excuse me, so rude. If you go into the Mahasi technique, right? The Mahasi technique, what they would teach you is, they will tell you to do Anapanasati, but not a lot of focus. Anapanasati, bring yourself into the present moment. Now, Mahasi technique is Shuddha Vipassana, no Samatha. Shuddha Vipassana. They will tell you to do Anapanasati, slow down absolutely everything. Even walk from your kuti to the meditation hall, it takes about 20 minutes, although you might live close by, because you're supposed to walk like a turtle, literally, right? Very slow, contemplating impermanence of the sensations as even you walk, right? You're supposed to eat so slow as well, right? All of these things. Contemplating impermanence. පංච උපාදානස්කන්ධය ඇතිවීම පැවතීම නැතිවීම හැම වෙලේම බලන්න කියලා තමයි කියන්නේ in the Mahasi technique, right? However, when you're sitting down for meditation, initially they will tell you do Anapanasati, but they will not tell you look at the air, look at this, look at that, whether it is a samatha. No, they will tell you basically to use it as a base to bring yourself into the present. That's it. Right? And then when you have a state of presence, when you're able to suppress, when you're able to continue your sitting meditation for beyond 30-45 minutes, then we will start the vidarshana now. Ibem and vidarshana now. It all depends on the focus that you have. It is to cultivate that focus that we use the anapana. Yeah? Because we are sitting. Yeah? What happens is, if you just simply start, And if you don't have that sense of samadhi and presence, what happens is it becomes very difficult because you get bored very quickly because the mind also is restless. With that restless mind, it is very difficult for a person to go into vipassana. Okay? Is that clear?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, without the moisture of the jhana, right? Purification of view. Purification of view is discernment of mind and matter with respect to their characteristics, functions, manifestations, and proximate cause. So this is literally purification. If one is to ask, okay, how can I build purification of view? What is it that I need to learn? That would be everything to discern mind and matter. What is that? Abhidhamma. We can take Abhidhamma. We can take the sutras with regards to discernment of mind and matter. But then Abhidhamma would be that, you know, that which goes into that great detail, right? Now, purification of view is so called because it helps to purify one of wrong view of a permanent self. This purification is arrived at in the course of meditation by discerning the personality as a compound of mental and material factors. Now, as we are meditating, if a sensation arises and if we are unable to break it in realizing that this is just mind and matter in a play, right, that this is not self, how are we supposed to break out of it, right? Which occur independently, without any controlling self within or behind them. Without knowing this, and this is what we learn, isn't it? As we observe the sensation, this is what we learn. These mechanisms arising and passing away, right? And it gets easier for us to simply watch these without getting entangled in them. This stage is also called the analytical knowledge of mind and matter, nama rupa vavatthana jnana. Nama rupa vavatthana jnana. Because the mental and material phenomena are distinguished by way of their characteristics, etc. We come to know mind and matter separately, mind for what it is, matter for what it is, and we are able to break them apart and see their mechanisms as they appear and arise and disappear. Is that clear? That is a purification of view. Yes, I'm saying.
The same as Namarupa Paricheda Jnana.
Yes.
Okay.
Right.
In different words. This is Namarupa, what do you call Vavatthana.
Yeah. Namarupa Vavatthana is analytically sort of breaking apart, right? Namarupa Parichedi is distinguishing between.
Okay.
Right? Sorry, Namarupa Vavatthana is analytically seeing Nama and Rupa. Namarupa Paricheda is distinguishing between Nama and Rupa. Right? So here I would say, I want to say yes, but it also feels like a no.
Or rather, early basis of Namarupa Paricheda Jnana. Because you're beginning to understand the difference of the separation.
Namarupa Paricheda Jnana. The thing is, this stage, yes, this stage, it is after the purifications that those Vipassana Jnanas arise. No?
Yeah.
It is after we go through that but this is purification of view. No, that is wrong. This is purification of view. Okay, leave it with me. Okay?
Okay.
because the mental and material phenomena are distinguished by way of their characteristics, right? By way of their characteristics. So I should have a document. No, I will find it for you next week. I will find it for you next week. Purification of doubt. Purification by overcoming doubt is a discernment of the conditions of that same mind and matter. Purification by overcoming doubt is a discernment of conditions of that same mind and matter. Purification by overcoming doubt is so called because it develops the knowledge which removes doubt about the conditions for mind and matter during the 3 periods of time, past, present, and future. It is achieved by applying during the contemplative process one's knowledge of dependent arising in order to understand that the present compound of mind and matter has not arisen by chance or through a hypothetical cause, such as God or a primordial soul, but has come into being from previous ignorance, craving, clinging, karma, the past, according to the Paticcasamuppada. One then applies this same principle to the past and future as well. This stage is called discerning Paccaya Pariggaha Jnana. Paccaya Pariggaha Jnana. Purification of. Any questions? Do you want me to explain that? Anyone?
Yes, Bhante, please.
Yes, Bhante.
Please.
Right. So here now we can see that we are going through the Vidarshana Jnanas here, right? So for now, up until I come back to you next week, let's take this as Paccaya Pariggaha Jnana, Namarupa Paricheda Jnana, right? For now, right? Now, at the arising of overcoming doubt, or the purification by overcoming doubt, now we have at this time of analytically seeing mind and matter, we have seen the different functions of mind and matter through experience. However, now mind and matter, what are we seeing? Their different functions, their characteristics, all of that. At purifying of doubt, what happens is the further in-depth realization that these Namarupas that are present has come from somewhere. That somewhere is not God or a soul, because both of these things will assume self, right? Would assume self. This is because of cause and effect. That cause and effect, now we go through the cycles of Paticcasamuppada, dependent origination. In dependent origination, remember that we broke, in dependent origination, remember that we broke the 12 links into past, present, and future.
Yeah.
The past, present, and future ties all the components of the 12 together. All the components of the 12 together. I'm just trying to find a Paticcasamuppada chart. Okay. All the components of the 12 together. All the components of the 12 together. Now, the present causes, now Nama and Rupa is here. This Nama and Rupa, can you see everyone? Yeah. Nama and Rupa is here. This Nama and Rupa, we are aware of this Nama and Rupa because of the consciousness that has arisen before. And after which, Salayatana, Passa, Vedana will become or arise because of the Nama Rupa being present. Right? Now this we are aware of. We can observe this part very easily in the present. Right? Now, where did this Nama Rupa come from? This Nama Rupa comes from past ignorance and sankhara of the past. This becomes a cause, see, past cause to the present effect, right? To the present effect. Now, because of the past cause, this present effect, there is because of the passa rising and because of the way that our minds are work, there is, when an object appears, craving or friction or the taking of an object, of an external object to further fuel this process in me, right? That arises as craving, attachment, becoming. This is the present cause, which leads to the future birth and aging. We realize that this is a result of this. This present cause is our conditioning because of this again, right? The past causes again. And because of these, the future effects comes into play. Hetupala. And we realize that the physicality that we have, sorry, the physicality that we have, is all because we are holding it all together in our realm of reality. Right? In our realm of reality, the make a kiwata, apart that make a theory in we can't understand. When we say we are all holding it together in our realm of reality, we cannot truly understand what that actually means. Because there is a sense of relevance given to the world beyond the Dhamma. There's a sense of relevance given to the world beyond the Dhamma. Right? Because of this body, the maintenance of this body. However, when we break through those stands and realize the cause and effect here, right? Now, let me explain that better. Okay. I'm guessing for those of you who have not eaten yet, right? That after this class that you will go and eat, right? Maybe you have eaten already before the class, maybe. But maybe, I don't know, right? So let's just, for the sake of example, let's us say after this class, you are going to go eat, right? Now, how do we eat? We eat with the intention of saying, I'm hungry, right? I've not eaten yet, right? Now you see the process of eating or eating dinner, we look at it in a manner where now this is something that I need. It's a part of my daily routine. Ara Atma Sanya Sankalpen තමයි අපි දැන් ඕක බලන්නේ, දකින්නේ. Right? Then ඕක අපි, if we turn it into cause and effect, because the body has not been fed, the body is now hungry. Right? After the body is fed, the body is no longer hungry. Do you get what I mean? This realm of reality that we operate in and how real all of this actually feels is all down to the fact of importance and potency that we give that realm around us. through the meditation, we come to truly understand. Then, when we come into a position of this sort, we will really not find amusement in any of these things. Right? You will not find amusement in any of these things. It would be simply just, seeing people engaging with it. It will just be, not in a very sort of, it would be like watching a comedy almost, not because we are looking down upon people, but it's like a magic show or something like that. Like, how can you be so deluded kind of thing? Not in an egotistical sense, but it's so weird in a way, and that this reality falling on together and it looking like your life, this, when we look at cause and effect, this breaks apart, that holding together. And now it's just cause and effect, cause and effect, cause and effect. When the body is hungry, when it's not fed, it'll need to be fed. When it needs air, it'll breathe. It becomes all cause and effect at that point. That is what becomes far more clear at the time of that sense of meditation that we go into at that point. Does that make sense? Or am I just blabbering on?
Yeah, Bhante. Yeah. But as we have done Patthana,
Yeah.
can you relate Patthana also at the same time?
Patthana can be related at the same time, of course it can, right? However, what do you want to we can look at the different patches that would come into it, right?
Yeah.
Different patches that would come into it. But I've been thinking a lot about the Arupa Loka, right, for the past few days, right? And obviously it is not as if we were kind of like picked up and then dropped. Okay, this is your world, right? Obviously not. Meaning, like, we were not picked up from the Deva realms and like put into like the Kama Loka or anything like that. It's not something like that that happens, right? But then we question the realm and the reality of where we are and how our energies connect. And the fact where, for example, within this plane of existence and this universe, we talk about matter, and for matter to travel, there needs to be space.
Yes.
And the fact that in the Arupa Loka there is no space, I think is a very, very, very interesting thing. Damsiri, you want to say something?
Yeah, Bhante, that's why the scientists are baffled these days. The condition called singularity. That means the place, domain where there's no space and time, right? Because you must have come across the multi-universe theory and things like that. And now the universe expands and contracts, and then you have another big bang, and you create another universe again. So the whole process takes approximately 13 into 12, 30 billion years, right? And this I have been also thinking about this Arupa Loka, but the understanding of my Arupa Loka is actually the singularity.
Okay.
That means there's no space and time. Of course, nowadays they say that there's nothing called time. It's all we created, the past and the future, and we call it time. The real existence is present, in line with Buddhism also. Actually, this is the modern theory.
Yeah.
So the time is a hypothetical sort of parameter, and it's not true. There's nothing called time actually. It's the past and the future.
Yeah.
And again, same way, the Arupa Loka is actually beyond the mundane world.
Yeah.
Right? And mundane world is the space and time.
Yeah.
So it's a very interesting phenomena actually. Then again, we can say that supramundane is even further out from the mundane world.
Further, I mean, we have 36,000 yojanas away. It says as a distance, right?
Yes.
It says as a distance. However, now have they found a place where, of course, they're talking in theories, but have they found a place where that space does not exist?
Yeah, because it's a singularity. Actually, when it's called singularity, right? Where there's no physical law exist, right? There's no space, there's no time. So this is outside the universe, outside the periphery of the universe, and so it's again a supramundane. It's outside the mundane world. Universe is mundane world. We call it, because universe, in order to have access universe, you need a space. In order to see matter, you need space.
Yeah.
Right? Without space, the matter won't be there. Even in Buddhism, that's exactly that. The space is part of the matter.
Yeah.
And so if there's no space, then there's no matter.
Yes, and the existence of nama, in that sense, it questions our ability of nama existence itself, and how the perceivable of reality itself would happen and take place.
There's another scientist, they have come out with actually they try to relate the consciousness with the universe. I can even send you the recent book actually on this issue. The famous professor in United States, he tried to understand. They say that you can't differentiate universe from the consciousness, and they exist side by side. So that's the main reason. I think in your physics, probably you know the double slit experiment. In double slit experiment, when you send a subatomic particle through double slits, right? When the observer is there, it behaves as a particle.
Yes. Yeah.
And when the observer is not there, it behaves as a wave.
Yes.
You know that, yeah?
Yes.
And so that means there's serious part the observer is doing in realizing from the wave to the particles. So that's the question they have been discussing these days in the scientific world. And this particular scientist is coming out and say that yes, consciousness has got something to do with the universe. Or it may be that consciousness came first and universe came later. Universe came later. So the possibility is that, because this universe, our universe, is only 13.8 billion years old. Before that, there was no universe. Of course, there were some other universes probably, possibility, but not our universe.
Mm.
So that's the reason why they say that consciousness and the universe, they exist side by side.
Yeah. Yeah, well, the lines of what I've been thinking of is when we would take, for example, the way that we perceive our reality, which is mind and matter, and the way that this sort of self, we assume self, and why is it so difficult for us? I mean, even we learn the Dhamma, we know the Dhamma, we try to practice the Dhamma every single day. However, the difficult task that it is to break away from the notion of self being so difficult, because we have this multi-layered panchupadana skandha, where it is literally reapplying. Again, the more that we shower and clean ourselves, the more mud that falls, almost, dirting our vision, corrupting the vision, right? And that is in that sense where the Buddha says, indriya samvara, the satipatthana, the indriya samvara, because when the indriya samvara is not there, we constantly, we are fooled again and again and again and again. We are fooled. And because that taste, or that is something that is so familiar to us, we fall for it.
Yeah.
We fall for it again and again and again. However, the Panchava, Rupa, Vedana, Sanya, Sanskara, Vijnana, but remember, this is Vijnana in the Panchupadana skandha, I've been thinking. This is Api Vijnana and Vijnana in the Panchupadana skandha has to be different.
Yeah.
Because there is a Vijnana beyond Panchupadana skandha that we attain to.
Yes.
However, we operate at a very low spectrum of the Vijnana, the consciousness, because this consciousness is tainted.
Yes.
This consciousness is tainted. Yes. We think, the things that are going around us are silly little illnesses and pains and all of these things that affect our silly little bodies.
Yeah.
Right? It's a big thing, but at the end of the day, it's all very silly. This conception of reality is not this you and I. This comes to sort of see, or this comes to feel like, because what I experience and you experience, again, as I mentioned yesterday, is the same thing. There's uniqueness in the data. However, the way the consciousness works is the same. Yeah. So this reality that we perceive, the tainting of that reality seems to be repeatedly tainted by this Panchupadana skandha and the hindrances that keeps on arising to further enforce that Satasanya.
Yeah.
But when we break through all of that, we are able to achieve a state which is supramundane, such as a space, such as a plane of existence where space does not exist. If space does not exist as a materiality, this whole world that we see and know, it's a complete and entirely different. I mean, there's no comparison to it.
Yeah. That's why, Bhante, some people think that actually your consciousness, you actually communicate, your consciousness communicate with the outside world through your 6 senses.
Yeah. Now,
so the 6 senses actually gives you the impression that there's a world outside. And it filters certain information, but does not give all the information what is in outside world. Because, for example, the dogs can hear certain frequencies, but we can't hear that frequency.
Yeah.
So it's filtered. That means the information is filtered when we receive this information to our consciousness. But as you said, actually, there's 2 levels of consciousness. The consciousness in our mundane location linked to the supramundane location, the consciousness in supramundane location. It's some people, they call it cosmic consciousness. So they actually, even though we have a dual sort of operating consciousness, the most powerful consciousness is in the supramundane consciousness. The local mundane consciousness, we operate the consciousness through just 5 senses, and we see the world through that 5 senses, and we created a beautiful world, but that is filtered through. Not exactly what we see is not what you get in outside world.
That is interesting, because I feel like that is part of the evolution theory. And in the theory of evolution, I mean, if we are to take or sort of take essence from that, and then sort of see how we have sort of conditioned ourselves to be within a certain spectrum or a frequency of life, and we do not apply ourselves to anything beyond that frequency.
That's right, yeah.
You know, like now, for example, the Arupavachara or Rupavachara attainments is something that is at the moment, you know, because we have not experienced it, maybe it is beyond us. But the moment that we do tap into it and experience it through the potential that is within, then it becomes available to us at any time that we so wish it to.
Yeah.
So I'm then thinking the cosmic consciousness or that supramundane consciousness, because this is an energy, and of course Buddhism does not speak about a linkage to an outside consciousness, whether then this is the potential that is possibility, but the mere fact that whilst possibility is there and also infinite in nature, as the Buddha says that we can be reborn in any being, as any being, that possibility has now, through the evolution of us being within this Kamaloka for so long, we have subscribed to this Kamaloka mentality and presence to such an extent that this is all so familiar. That is also familiar. What it has essentially seemed to, or, you know, of course, these are all sort of what's going through my head, but what it all seems to be doing or has done is simply dimmed our light or dimmed our energy.
Yeah.
You know, dimmed our energy. Because this is most interesting, because now, like, you listen to any sort of, like even the businessmen who talk about manifestation and energy cleansing. And I mean, these people who are doing business talking about all of this, right? It's interesting because when you talk about manifestation is something that we as monks we experience a lot, because we really don't have a need. Now, for example, if I am to think of something that I need, and you know, there are not a lot of things that I actually need, but if I am to think of something that I need, I get it somehow, right? And it's kind of weird, because I know that this is not like me needing Christmas presents when I was back home, right? It is not a mentality like that. It is a spiritual sense of, okay, I know that this thing is something that I'm in need of, and somehow it comes. And where we know, the more that we let go, the more that we have no clinging, the more powerful our beings become. And we literally bring about, through the universe, we bring about the things that we require, need in life. But the thing is, a lot of people don't tap into that energy, because we crave too much. We think craving is how we get places. And it is actually not. Craving is not how we get into places. Craving is how we get into disaster.
Yeah.
You know, and I've been thinking about this a lot. And yeah, that's it.
Yeah, the craving and delusion and craving and delusion actually smudge the information we get from outside world, and then we behave differently because without getting the real information. And Bhante, then this supramundane and mundane consciousness, it's actually in agreement with quantum theory, because in quantum theory there's a condition called non-locality, right? Non-locality, and and that means you can have these two existence, two powers working in sort of a coordinated way. And I have a strong feeling actually, because we are here, we are actually linked to the universe, the supramundane consciousness. And at the moment we are doing everything, we are talking about the mundane world, right?
You know, the first thing that comes to my mind, Dhamma, when you say so, sorry, is the abhinya. You know, where the Buddha or the disciples who have abhinya can travel through space.
Yes.
Can literally create a walking space in the air, can go through solid earth, right? That which is earth. It literally bending, almost a bending of the universe to your will.
Yes.
You know, and this process which happens through sheer power of determination and mental energy. That's the first thing that comes to my mind when you say that, because, you know, where we are so sort of bogged down to this sort of gross body, we find that beings are actually able to, I mean, Venerable Moggallana, whilst his physical body was literally choppified, you know, he, through his irdhi, he makes the body, comes and worships the Buddha, and then passes. Right? And the power of beings, even, for example, when we take like even with the Patavi Dhatu, the rishis living in the Himalayas and all these places where they use the fire element to heat their bodies and to live in sub-zero temperatures and climates. Right? And all of these things. I mean, when you sit for so long in meditation and you don't have hemorrhoids or any of these things, right? Because we know when we sit in one place and all that, the body, you know how the body reacts, right? Sciatica and none of these things. The body completely all right and healthy, but sitting 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, 12 hours of meditation. I knew a tourist guide lady in Yangon who sat for 18 hours of meditation and she would not get up. She would just be like a solid statue, just in meditation constantly. And she was also a working woman, right? I mean, you know, the mind is far, far superior than any of these things. But I feel like what my investigations of mind is, how do we break out of this, right? To break, I feel like in every sense of the word, and I really do believe this, we have to stop believing that what we think is real is actually real.
That's right, yes.
We have to really stop believing that. It's and you know, even saying it, it's like one part of my mind is saying, no, it is real. What are you saying, you idiot? You know, so that is that prapancha and all of that, realizing that, you know, when I feel like starting to question that part where alternatively, what mentality could I have? For example, Yoniso Manasikara, when someone is speaking utter nonsense or utter, everything that is derogatory about you, and if you're able to not subscribe to that person's reality, and you subscribe to the reality of Dhamma, that's what I mean. Right? You giving into the anger is subscribing to that person's reality. No. That person's world is not the world that I'm going to live in. I'm going to live in the world that takes me to Nirvana. What is that world? The reality of Dhamma.
Yeah.
The reality of Dhamma is that you are operating with your ignorance, and my ignorance is the fact that I want to react. I want to give you a thumping slap across your face and say something really rude to you, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to realize and understand that my feelings are simply also impermanent, and whatever that you're saying is also simply impermanent. It is rooted in self, and it is going to lead to suffering for both you and I, should we react any further with this nonsense. So I'm going to just simply move on like a cloud towards Nirvana. And even, Achan Chah's words comes to my mind all the time, because with aging and with the potential of sickness and death and all of these things, which is the fact that a Buddha Putra, I've mentioned this so many times with you, a Buddha Putra is not concerned about this death of body. His concern is from the time that the practice starts to when we attain Nirvana, because that is when we truly, truly die. So as long as, because at the end of the day, this death of the body doesn't mean anything. We come here, we say Akka Malli, Amma Tata, Achi, all of that, and we go, we never see each other again. Not in the same way. That's it. So okay, bon voyage. What is it? Why should we be looking at death in such an upset way? Because we've been doing it. I mean, how long? 31 billion years, Dhamsiri, you said?
13.8 billion.
13.8 billion years, we've been, if this is this Chakravala, and just imagine the other Chakravalas that we've been.
That's right, yes.
Organisms, fish, pretas, yakas, pisachas, kumbhandas, we've been eating caviar and champagne, and also we've been eating feces.
Yeah.
That is what we've been doing. We've been thinking at each and every moment, even whilst eating caviar, we thought we were the big shit. When we were actually eating shit also, we thought that we were the big shit. That is Atma. That is literally Atma there.
Yeah.
So there's nothing I'm, thinking about the Dhamma and sort of, trying to sort of relate to what is actually real. I feel like the best start of that reality is completely unsubscribing from the idea that all of this is ultimate. No, nothing is ultimate.
Yeah.
And I think that is what Yonis Manasikara ultimately is supposed to be doing as well. Yeah, I'm going to leave it at that. All right, everyone. I will see you on Wednesday. All right.
Okay.
Take care. Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bhante.
Bhante.
Thank you.
Thank you.